We've been talking about multi-tools on this channel for a couple of years now, and we have taken a look at our fair share of wave-esque clones. Leatherman Wave, that is. But today, yeah, we're really there, and I mean it. So one of these three tools is a Leatherman. The other two are not. The two on either side were $23, and the Leatherman Wave in the middle is $110. The real question is, how good did they do? And let's hope it's not that good. All right, so before we get started in a comparison, let me kind of step back a little bit and talk about a timeline. I started, early on in this channel, I reviewed a tool called the Ozark Trail Multitorce. Now, this is a Walmart exclusive tool, and clearly, it got a lot of people riled up because it was clearly inspired by the Leatherman Wave. However, it has some serious advantages, in fact, over the Leatherman Wave, such as the fact that you can see that the blade is on the opposite side as the pliers. And it had a full-sized hex bit driver that used double-sided ball detent retention bits. So when I reviewed it, I felt pretty good about the fact that, this actually had some improvements. It was a little bit different, but kind of a similar, familiar platform. It was also a little bit heavier. It came with a pocket clip. There was a lot of advantages. After that, we started seeing much closer iterations to the Leatherman Wave, such as the Bibury multi-tool, as you can see, is very, very similar and very, very similar to these two over here. But it wasn't quite the same. So for one thing, it still had the basic plier without replaceable cutters, and the scissor performance wasn't all that great. But now we have this, and these are tools that I discovered during the Prime Day sale, and honestly, the price was too good not to check out. So we're gonna dive into it here on video and see how close they nailed it. Same manufacturer, as you can probably tell, as the Bibury. These are rebranded from a mass manufacturer. So if you go to Alibaba.com, you can buy these in bulk and get them branded with whatever brand you want. Okay, and I had a feeling, because we had talked about it recently, that these would start hitting the market. But when I talked about it, I expected something like this to come in at the $40 to $50 price point, and where it would never even consider, replacing the Wave. But at $30, which is where these are sitting right now, and at $23, yeah, we got to have a serious conversation about this, right? So let's go ahead and do a quick comparison and see if this is going to actually give the Leatherman Wave a run for its money. First, let's do a quick weight comparison, because this is actually relevant, and you're going to notice something right away. Oh, focus. Okay, so first is the Leatherman Wave, which should be around 8 and 5/8 ounces, I believe, but 8.5 is about right. When you compare it to the Bibury, which is going to be heavier, it's almost an ounce heavier, okay? And the Multitorce, I believe, is about the same, give or take about the same, an ounce heavier. Now, I would guess that this is going to be exactly the same thing. So just basically under 9.5 ounces, and the same here. And I'm going to guess the difference is these cutouts. Just that little bit is enough to drop the weight slightly, but it's basically all going to be an ounce heavier than the Leatherman Wave. So I'm not saying by any stretch that they're better than the Wave. There's some give and take. In order to use that 1/4 inch bit driver in these, it has to be wider, and because of that, it's going to be also heavier. All right, so for starters, I'm assuming that you know what is in the Leatherman Wave, but we'll go ahead and we'll run through it real quickly. Now, this is our modified version that we talked about way back when, and we'll continue to finish, but for now, you can kind of see the general gist. You have a primary straight blade as well as a serrated blade with one-handed capability using your right hand. In addition, it had a diamond file with a file on the back and a straight cut down here. as well as a saw. So all of these things you can find on this tool as well. Now where it differs greatly is actually on the inside. So we'll just pull this one out to begin with. So where this tool, the Leatherman Wave, has their proprietary bit system, this actually has a wider frame and has a full 1/4 inch bit holder that locks in place with the lock and has a reversible bit. Now these can be the same bits that you use with the Klein tools, but I've also installed magnets so they can use normal hex bits as well. And that actually is a huge improvement and is a great thing. The other thing that we're going to compare here is scissors, and I might even have a section where we actually truly compare them. All right, and we're going to bring out the Multitorce here, which is the best of the scissors of the clones that I had tested so far. And you can see, and I noticed right away, that there was some differences with the scissor. And if we're going to the Bibury, which is truly made by the same manufacturer, you can see that they have made some changes to the profile of the scissor itself, in my opinion, for the better, because the two things it couldn't do well were precision cuts, and it had a little bit too much flex, and the thickness, the width, might actually help with this. So it's possible that these might even perform better than these other scissors. Now I have done an entire video on scissor comparisons, and believe it or not, the Multitorce was better than the Leatherman Wave. Not talking about quality or longevity of that edge because of steel, but it did in fact perform better. Now, before we go any further, let's quickly test the scissors on these Flissa clone. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you may recognize some of these different materials from tests that I've done in the past. Now, I have not tested the scissor yet. Okay, this is the first time we're all seeing it together. And if you don't remember, we're going to try to cut it basically just at all. And then if it does, we're going to go also cut it at the tip. That will give it a total of 2 points and kind of give us a sense of how well the scissor cuts. So that's no problem. That's 2. No problem with that either. That's also a 2 for a total of 4. Clean. That's great. 6. So we have some materials we're missing, but just kind of getting a general sense. Almost nothing cuts this. This is the Dyneema line, and this is a pain. Well, that did a pretty decent job. Yeah, almost nothing cuts this. Okay, it doesn't cut that. That's fine. This is the Kevlar fabric. Actually goes through that no problem. That's good. 2 on that. 0 on that. So all of those have passed flying colors. The stretchy jersey knit, which I don't have a big piece, but get the general sense of how it can cut, and it does cut pretty well. It's going to be a 2 as well. And then the really tough stuff. So let's start with the seat belt. Actually does pretty good. Now it's still going to be a 1, but it cuts through it no problem. And this is, I think, 5,000 pound tensile strength. This is strapping for huge, what do you call it? Words. For trailers when carrying stuff. So it's not ideal, but does it cut through? Yeah, it does. So that's a 1 as well. So already I would say it's performing better than the Leatherman Wave, just based purely on first look. Now I haven't yet tested the black variant. We'll have to save that for a different video. We just don't have the time. But if it's anything like that, that's pretty good performance so far. Oh, I did forget one thing. We should test to see if the tip is precise enough to cut at, basically a thread or something like that. So what I have is I have some stitching, and the idea is to catch it at the tip and cut it. And it doesn't look like it can. Nope, not quite. Nope, not quite. That's a no on that. But that's kind of unusual. Most of them can't. In fact, I don't think the Wave could either. Let's continue on with the comparisons. The other thing, before we go to the inside, besides the scissor, because that's something we definitely can test apples to apples kind of thing, is the file. So when I initially reviewed the Ozark Trail Multitorce, one of the biggest complaints from people after they had played with it for a little while is that the file was not well formed. And you can see it's kind of rounded at the corners. It's maybe not easy to see, kind of rounded at the corners, and it's almost like this diamond coating wasn't maybe applied the best. And some people had told me that they had versions that flaked off, but not all did. Some people had really good experience, some people not so much. When the Bibury came out, less people complained about the file, but it was still a problem sometimes with consistency. But unlike the Ozark Trail, it really came to a very nice flat edge. So there was no issue with it being flat for the surface. And a couple of times I heard that the diamond coating was coming off, but it was like once or twice. This appears to be on par from an edge standpoint. It looks pretty good. In fact, this cutting edge actually looks pretty aggressive in comparison to the others. And even this is more aggressive than the ones I've seen so far. So that's all an improvement. And what scares me a little bit, and the reason we're doing this, is to showcase just how quickly these manufacturers are improving their quality and still keeping it incredibly low priced. I doubt very much that these are going to hold up to the same length of time as a Leatherman. That's never going to happen. But they're getting dangerously close to a competitive product. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. We can't discount these tools. We have to really take a look at them from a price perspective and see if it's worth it. Are these actually competing? Now, this is something we're not going to tell right now, but we'll have to see over time. So the next thing is the blades. Let's talk about the blades for a second. So serrated blade, same here. A little bit different grind. Interesting. It's actually ground both. Oh, it's just a little bit lower. But yeah, similar grinds. Both liner locked. And then the primary blade. Nope, wrong side. Interesting. They put the file on the opposite side here. But yeah, once again, really similar. Okay, this is a true clone. It's not like the last ones we've been talking about. This is a real deal, no BS, like truly a clone of the Wave. Saw. How closely did they match the saw? I'm not able to get this out. Interesting. Wonder what happened. It's stuck. Why is it stuck? I don't know. Okay. Oh, it's fine now. Something was sticking. Just worth noting. Alright, not sure what happened. But anyway, it's coming out now. And it's kind of rough. But actually, no, it's not really. Just kind of deburred. But actually, the actual teeth are substantially longer, it appears. Much longer than the Leatherman Wave. So that can be both good and bad. It's going to cut faster, but it's also going to rip more than it's going to actually saw. So that's interesting. It is definitely wider teeth. So there's that. We'll have to actually test these. Oh, one thing I do want to check while we have the saw open. Ideally with the multi-tool saws, because they are quite short, you really want a thinner spine than you do at the blade. And you can kind of tell that those blades have splayed out just a little bit. This will keep the saw from binding, and it does feel like they did in fact taper it, which is impressive. Okay, now it's time to move on to the pliers. And this is something I did notice right away. They really closely match this. This is clearly a clone. But, and I did open this up once or twice, I did notice something with this particular one. Now notice how much it opens, right? Something up with this one. It's not fully opening. Now if I pull it, I can get it to open their proper mount. But for some reason there's something going on with the pivot on this particular tool. So this pivot is actually not good. And if I were to have received a Leatherman like this, I would have returned it. And I probably will end up returning this one as well. And the reason is if you pull out the black version, I'm not having any of those problems. It opens fully without any problem and closes just fine. So if we open up the Leatherman Wave and open up the other tool, you can see they open very similarly. Looks like the Wave opens a little bit more than this one, but pretty darn close. The other thing I noticed right away is that the tension on this plier, the locking mechanism here, is much more secure on the Leatherman Wave than it is on this Flissa multi-tool. But on the black version at least, the pliers open appropriate amount and they have those replaceable cutters. The other interesting thing, now this is cutters that I modified from the EOD cutters, but in normal Leatherman cutters, both sides look like this, where they have a hard wire cutter and a soft wire cutter. But this one actually is weird. It has this on one side and then it has a full straight edge on the opposite. I don't know if that's better or worse, honestly. Usually they match, but in this case there's one of each. Very interesting. Have to test that later. But there's the pliers. And what's kind of amazing to me is, in addition to having a nice, like very smooth action, there's no play in this plier head. And even though this one isn't perfect, there's no play in this one either. So this one is certainly worth returning because it doesn't fully open, but still impressive nonetheless. And the one thing I will have to test is to see if these will take the Leatherman cutters, which obviously uncouth and is not something that necessarily like a major company would do, right? They're not going to do that. But this is a an indiscriminate rebranding of a tool bought on AliExpress or Alibaba. So yeah, there's a good chance that these actually like work within each other. And that's, I don't know how I feel about that just yet. I mean, from the consumer perspective, it's great because it means you can buy Leatherman cutters for an inexpensive multi-tool. But from the Leatherman perspective, it seems a little sus. Now I know that these patents are expired, but yeah, that's a thing. All right, let's move on from the plier head. Taking a look at internal tools on this, there are some differences. For one thing, these tools do not have the precision driver that is present on the Leatherman. And they also have wider frames to accommodate the wider plier head, as well as the bit driver in the opposite side. And because of that, they were able to fit a fourth implement on this side. Essentially, they tried to condense everything that was present on the Wave into a single side. So instead of having the micro driver, there's a very small flathead like so, and I am not a huge fan of these because they tend to snap quite easily and break, but they're really good as pokey pieces, potentially, if you don't care about the edge. And my guess is that this is going to break relatively quick, because even in the higher quality multi-tools, these very, very thin steel implements, they break. They definitely break, and then they're not recommended to put in multi-tools. It's better than nothing, surely, but still something to talk about. And the can opener, bottle opener combination, it's a little bit different as well, but this is something that is very similar in all of the clones. The V cutter on the Wave is far superior to the small U-shaped opening here. For their wire stripper, you're going to be able to cut much larger, or strip much larger wire with this V notch versus this U-shaped notch, which is, as you can see, is much less wide. Okay. Now for the remaining tool set, we have, of course, a flathead, trying to match that, the scissor, and the bit driver. And I think this is where you really, this is where Leatherman really suffers. And this is where I think that they need to kind of take this seriously. A full-sized hex bit driver capable of using standard hex bits is a really good choice and a great competition for Leatherman, because the proprietary bits have become a problem in the recent past. We had a situation where they were actually out of stock. They are already quite a soft steel, and they can only be purchased directly from Leatherman. But you know, whether you're buying the Multitorce, which comes with a bit extender that you can use with standard bits, or you just add a magnet to it, this is going to be much easier to use with tools that you already have. You can take a standard bit kit and you can basically use this. And that is a big thing that I think Leatherman cannot continue to ignore. I think people want it. It's why I think the dual force was popular and the center drive is popular. I think there is certainly an advantage to the compactness of the Leatherman bits, but it's falling. It's just, it doesn't stack up well when you also compare the prices overall. That just my thought. I think I want to move on from this from now, but yeah, bit drivers. I mean, the advantage here clearly goes to the Flissa. I would never pick the Leatherman bit system over a standard 1/4 inch. It's just never going to happen. Real quickly, let's talk about the different color variants. So I haven't seen any of the clones offered on Amazon in black until this one. So it's kind of neat, and I really do like the finish here. It is not a black oxide finish. It is actually some form of DLC coating, and it kind of appears to be a bit of a matte finish, at least on the body, and a little bit different on the blades. Now, something I noticed about this black one is that this pivot is a little bit too tight and needs to be adjusted, but that's not uncommon even with something like the Leatherman Wave. So far though, I'm impressed, but I don't want to be impressed. Do you know what I mean? So $29 for these. That's scary. That's really scary. And there are they've found a way to offer some advantages. A scissor that seems to perform a little bit better. They have most of the things that people like about the Leatherman Wave. And on top of that, and I think this is the big difference between these and the Leatherman Wave, is that they all have that bit driver that uses standard 1/4 inch and can be quickly changed into using any 1/4 inch bit. And I think that's a really big advantage. I hope that Leatherman is paying attention and maybe thinking about how they can make a 3.0, a version 3.0 that would kick the living daylights out of all of these clones. I hope they're planning on it, because these are really a problem. So as far as a first look of these multi-tools go, these are scary, and scary impressive for the cost, for what they're including, and the speed at which they are improving on different aspects of the tool. They started to get complaints about the file, they improved the file. People had some issues with the scissors, including myself, and they updated the scissors. I'm kind of concerned, because I have said many times that they need to remove the serrated blade, put in a outside accessible scissor, and replace the scissor on the inside with a reamer awl, right? Which is kind of a mod that so many people have done to the Leatherman Wave over time. And I feel like it's going to be one of these companies, one of these manufacturers overseas, that's going to do that first before Leatherman decides to do this. Now, they have known, we've suggested this for 10 years or so, but at this point, it's going to be Leatherman copying the clones. That is not good. Not good. No one, and I want to say this right now, no one is going to beat Leatherman on the longevity of the tool, on the quality of that tool. They really do hold up. They're phenomenal, okay? But But the thing is, when you buy a tool like this, and right now you can get it for $27 with a 10% coupon, you can buy an extended warranty through Amazon that is almost equivalent to what a Leatherman warranty entails for that period of time. And what I mean by that is Amazon is just going to replace your multi-tool if anything happens. They're not going to question whether, oh, did you misuse it, or oh, did it break because of manufacturing defects? They don't care. They're literally going to either send you a new tool, or they're going to give you the same amount as the tool back in credit to use again for another tool. So for 3 to 4 years, depending on how much you pay for it, you're going to get a pretty ridiculous warranty with a $30 tool, with a $27 tool, sorry. If you assume that the value of the warranty on a Leatherman is $25 for the 25 years, and you drop the price from 110 down to, I can't do math, is that 85? I think it's $85. It's still like a bit of a debate, which is impressive that they are able to make something that is even in the running. And although we're picking on the Leatherman Wave specifically here, which isn't all that fair because the Wave is amazing, where this really like compares unfavorably is to tools like the Leatherman Wingman or the Leatherman Sidekick, which these things absolutely destroy. They destroy them. Yes, you have to wear them with a belt sheath, but seriously, they are less than half the cost. Those things are now at $70. And what's really frustrating about that is they were at one point sold for $40 from Leatherman, and now they've jumped them up, you know, a lot. So I think Leatherman has a lot to think about. I think that they could absolutely answer strong to these clones. But can I blame anyone from wanting to pick one of these up and with the warranty, highly recommended, and use one for a couple of years? I mean, for me, if I was going to lose something, like take it on a fishing trip, and things get lost off a boat all the time, I would much rather be using this than my, I don't know, Leatherman Free P4, even though the P4 is way better for the task, by the way. So that what I've said in the past about budget tools is still true. It's a great tool for as loaners, as gifts, and basically as backups. But this is getting dangerously close to a good tool just in general. Yeah. I mean, I tentatively have to say this is worth checking out. We don't have enough information about usage over time, but it's the same manufacturer as the Bibury, and we know how that is performing, and it's pretty decent. So because of that, the only question here, the only real difference is that replaceable cutter, which could be a big bonus, but it could also weaken the plier head. So, testing is important. My recommendation is if you get this, make sure you are buying that 3 to 4 year warranty, because if you abuse it, which you should because it's cheap, you're going to get a replacement for it. So it's going to pay for itself real quick, and it's probably going to be a really great backup tool, spare Leatherman or whatever it happens to be. From a tool set perspective, it's basically identical, maybe even a little bit better. And yeah, that's something that Leatherman definitely has to think about.